Welcome back to part 2.
Beautiful.
All right. So, how far did everybody get with thinking about their game stuff? Let's see, we've got 2 people from each group.
Yep.
Well, she's with room. These 3 guys are room. Deborah's not here tonight for character.
That's right.
And Navy David is.
Navy David.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Navy David wishes he could be here. Okay, so we have 3 from one group and 1 from another. All right. You drew the short straw.
Come on.
All right. We had some interesting ideas pop up a little bit today. David brought up an interesting one, and that was the state of illumination in different rooms. Okay, and so I mean there's a lot of different ways we could take that. Like if a character had a vision stat or something like that, they might not be able to see in the room depending on how dark it was there.
I included that in what I just put in the slide.
Yeah, and let's see, you added quite a bit in here.
Just possibilities, right?
Yeah, you know, and these are creation script options. So, to start out, let's. And I was talking to David a little bit about this earlier too. You know, to start out, don't try to design the whole world up front. Okay, pick one thing to go forward with, to implement it and see how the concept feels. See how your design works out. See if it was painful to implement. See if it was easy to implement. See if it's expandable. You know, and after doing it with 1 or 2 small items, then come in and say, well, what all do we actually want to add to this? You know, so some of these are really cool ideas, but we should probably start with something a little more basic, you know, until we get going. So let's pick something maybe out of this list, or come up with one. We'll see. There's a gender, male or female. There's a class. Starting item is going to require us to have items, obviously. We kind of have name right now, but that probably needs to be done better, right? Race or faction, maybe. That kind of depends on genre. We really haven't decided that yet.
That would be, yeah. Yeah, and also, I think it would just include like basic descriptions or anything like that.
Right. So why don't we start with?
Because I think race and gender would be just basic things to implement. I don't think they would require like really.
They wouldn't require much, would they? Yeah. So why don't we do this then? Why don't we say, okay, clean up the name portion. You know, obviously you're gonna have to request their name. What do you want to name your character and whatnot? You said gender's in this list. Is that something y'all want to have in there?
Sure.
It's an easy low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. Since some of these, like character stats, these should really be dice rolled. Why don't we wait on those? And let's
You mean dice roll as in like?
randomize stat generation.
You mean like in? Are you referring to like how it's done in like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that?
Not really. Well, I don't know. I've not played Dungeons and Dragons, but
Wow.
like for instance, you go in through a character generation, and there's a range of like this much to this much, and it randomly picks something inside of there, and that's the stat for that attribute that your character has.
Could you do it based on, instead of random, like if you're gonna go the class route, like
You
I
could
would
make
think
it for
that,
class.
like, a
that
class
that would actually be more work, but yeah, we
Oh,
could do
really?
that.
You could
Well,
just-
yeah, because then you have to figure out and pre-fill all of them.
yeah.
Whereas with this rest of it, you just pick a range and you say rand. You remember?
Well, I would think maybe a basic thing would do maybe just like it would give you the game would give you like a set amount of like points, and then you can put.
So you're talking about point allocation.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's something you could do. I would definitely wait on that then. because you're gonna have to build a whole menu-based system for that, right? But that's a decent idea. Why don't we do this? Let's start with name, gender, and why don't you prompt them for a character description? They can describe the way their character looks.
Okay.
For now. And then that stuff can slowly, as we add more content, can slowly be replaced, like by what class they are or what race they are, you know, and we can slowly start to replace that. But that's very easy stuff to do to start with. So I'll put that in here.
Should it be like, so you, well, would logging in be typing in your name or something?
So I think you walked out of the room when Deborah and I were kind of discussing this, and I think Nick was in here too. So if so at the login screen, prompt the user with enter your character name or type new to create one. Okay, so if they, so really no one can create a character called new, is essentially what that means.
I'll just do new.1.
Because they'll never be able to log in. But yeah, so that's an easy way to trigger it. So when at the login screen, we don't have any code right now to load a character. If y'all want to start looking at that.
You mean they load or randomized generate?
No, I mean like, so if they enter their character name instead of typing new, the assumption is they already have a character, right? And so what we would do is we would find the character file that matches the name they typed in, and we would load that what we've stored. Loading,
Okay.
yeah. And so if someone wants to, they can go ahead and start looking at how to save character information into a file. Me and John might want to weigh in a little bit on that, on how to store this stuff. That way we get the most bang for our buck out of reusing some reading and writing mechanism in the application. But for now, for this part, I would say to make it easy, instead of having to worry about loading or writing to a file or anything like that, if they enter a character name, instead of typing new, just create new up a character object, a player object, give it the name that they entered, and put them in the world. Okay? Don't worry about going through some filling in descriptions or anything like that. And then if they type new, obviously that decision is going to bring them down the character creation script. And then that's going to return the fully loaded player object.
Instead of just like saying enter your name, can it be a guy stands there
Yeah,
and asks you for your information?
yeah, you can build on this as much as you want. You know, I just put that there as an example. You know,
So this wouldn't include stats at all at this point.
it wouldn't include what?
It wouldn't include stats at all.
Not yet, not yet. But once this basic thing is built, it's very easy to go back and start adding that stuff.
Okay.
So you incrementally build this. That way you can build the small pieces, test them to make sure they work, and then you go back and you add layers of complexity. Because the smaller you can make these layers, the smaller you can break these features down to be, the easier they are to implement, and the simpler your code stays overall. Okay? So small changes are far more powerful than big changes made all at once. So that's the direction I think the character creation stuff should go down for the time being. How's the room stuff looking? Who all's on the room team again? I'm sorry. Non-Navy Davy, Ben, and Christy. So have y'all talked at all, collaborated at all yet?
I did that computer.
Well, you can get to Slack in the browser. You don't need a computer for that. And there's a plugin for your phone too.
Alright, no excuses.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Communication is key.
There is a room object. Remember?
I forgot about that. So you ended up pushing one up, didn't you?
I did, I made a class.
I forgot about that. Let's look at that guy.
Investigate.
Where did it go?
No, it's under a different.
It's under a different project, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you added a room object. Have you tied this in with anything yet? Or did you just make the class?
I just made the class.
Okay. That's a starting point, right? Okay. So what I would do is for the room, I would probably add a title to it.
Oh,
You know, like a short description, just like
Puts
you know, you have a long description, maybe a short sentence, couple sentences, a paragraph, however descriptive you want to be, but the title could be in a hallway. You know,
okay, I was gonna ask.
you know, that kind of thing.
If we needed to get that deep, like if hallway would be,
It's however deep you want to get with it. No. The purpose of making it just like room like this is we get the most reuse out of this as possible.
like
You know,
CV.
there's other ways of getting that kind of specialized functionality out of areas other than using something like inheritance to build specialized classes for them. And we'll do that. We'll talk about how to do that and build this up. That way areas actually feel differently, you know, in the game, whether you're inside or outside or drowning or whatever, you know.
if I'm initializing, do I not need to put that description after initialize it?
Yeah, that's very broken.
I thought so.
But,
I just realized that actually.
Yeah. Now, what you could do is take in description,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like you're requiring description because it doesn't have a default parameter, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So if I wanted to make it default, I would do it last and do equals string,
Well, let's talk about this. So you looked at my YAML file, right?
yes,
You saw what that looked like.
yes.
Okay. Now I'll bring that back up here on the screen again. We saw what that data looked like when it was read in. Okay. It gave you a hash, right? And the hash it gave you back, well, I have that up too, I think. It's hard to see that red. Okay. The data that it read in, this is what we get read in. That's a single room, okay? Now, what I have, you don't have to have exactly. I'm just using this as an example of reading and writing data to and from a YAML file, or really just from a YAML file right now, okay? But these properties, this is kind of like what you would have, all right? You'd have a key and a value for that attribute. So the way I would probably start going down the room path, because we may want to continue to add stuff a lot to room, you know, depending on how much we want to expand upon it, is I would try to avoid making each individual parameter required for room instantiation, because then every time we add something to a room, everywhere you call room.new, you have to change that in the application. That's going to become a headache, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way I did this, and I'll show you a code soon, I'll just write it in here. I'm gonna give y'all like epileptic seizures or something, turn this on and off.
Was
but-
this a book we uploaded to Slack? Text games for Ruby?
Yes. Look at the authors.
Ah,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
legit. It's not legit.
It looks legit, though,
He-
See, the
Plagiarism.
first thing you wondered is why was there,
I'm gonna tell the person who made that, and they're gonna sue.
I wonder why there was a chameleon on the cover. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. And then I looked at the authors, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
So,
Those books, have you ever seen the O'Reilly books? They all have some weird animal on them like that.
I was about to say, I went to their website.
Yeah.
so I'm not going to do the whole class here like mine or anything, but you're basically doing this. You're saying, okay, well I'm going to take in a description and whatnot, yada yada yada. So maybe I take in a title and a description for a room. Okay. All right. Now, if I do that, everywhere, if I added something to a room and I was trying to read it from files easily and build them up rapidly, I'd have to add a new parameter to this and change everywhere I call room.new in the application. So I have a few options. I can make global setters for all of these properties, but then I have scenarios where I might forget to update a place and set an additional property. So everywhere in those cases, I still have to go set those properties manually. So what I would do instead is I would do this. Because we already know that data is going to be read in as a hash, I would make this take in an options hash. Okay? And then inside here, I could say things like, okay, my title is going to equal options title. All right, my description is going to equal the options description. Then it becomes very easy to build default parameters around this, because what happens if there is no title? Well, the hash returns nil because there is no value for that key, right? So then all I have to say is, maybe on the next line I could say, okay, well, if title is nil, title equals some default title, right? And I could actually shorthand that by doing this. Okay, by putting that or there, what that's doing is it's created everything on the right side of this as a logical Boolean statement.
And those two lines are an or.
This one line right here, those two things on either side of the or. Okay, this is or, remember, those two bars. And so this is saying this or this. Well, this is nil, right? So it's not going to use that. Nil fails a check. It evaluates to false in a Boolean expression. So when title's not available in options, it just goes, okay, well, I'll use this one. So that's an easy way of providing a default value when using a options hash. Okay, options hashes are pretty popular in Ruby because they do minimize code churn. And code churn is a term that we use in programming when you go, okay, well, we need to add this or we need to change this. Oh God, that means we have to change 50 places in the code. And that really sucks. But this will minimize it, because if I want to add a new property, what do I have to change? I don't have to change the method signature, do I? If I decided to add stats to the room, or maybe flags to the room, that's all I had to do. And now it's reading in from the file.
Because I know if you're talking about the vision stat that he was talking about, it would have like a room that would have things in it with all the descriptive things in it. And depending on how high your vision stat would be, you would be able to unlock like the different
Additional descriptions.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
But we're not worried about that right now. Starting small, we'll make it big. So that's probably the way I would gear towards doing. And for the record, this is probably the same way I would gear doing NPCs and items, because we have to read all that information in from a file, don't we? On startup, at least our template we do. Okay. So I would kind of start designing the class around that concept. So when I go to create one or new one up rather, I would have this then. Nope. It just assigns nil to flags. So it's just like that line of code never was there because
Would it be something is here?
it's nil anyway. Do I?
Would it be something is here?
Looks like something. Oh yeah, is here. All right. So it's pretty easy to add something to that, right? It's going to minimize how painful it is when we slowly start adding stuff to our system. So I would advise maybe going down this route to start with.
I like this. And then there would be like where you write the code for the game. That's where we would build all the rooms.
Yeah, and you say I started out. I didn't start out with the YAML file. I started out with one hard-coded room in the system, and so I had literally my code room.new, and I provided the title, the description, all the other stuff that I had in there. And then after I got it working, I went, okay, well now let me build this file reading thing, and I put the room text that I had basically in that YAML file. So now I can add as many rooms as I want to the system, and it's very easy and very low turnover.
And with the character creation, would all the things that you basically describe, like name, gender description, name we already have one down, would that would all just be within a character class or
Or a player class, a player or a character class, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, those would be, because those are properties of the character, right? Those are properties of the player. So, all right, lights on, and let's see everybody work.
Let's
Start coding.
do magic.
All right. I'm going to leave the recording going just for the sake of if we have any impromptu talks about anything that needs to be on there. So.
Hear that, Dave? Navy Dave?
Yeah, so Navy Dave is going to implement the NPC stuff for us.
Thanks, Davey Dave.
oh, so he's not in character creation, he's in
Oh, I was just making a joke because when he watches the video and he hears that, he's going to get very confused and slightly
Well,
worried.
now he's not going to be
so.
confused anymore because you ruined it.
Oh, he'll know I was messing with him.
He'll ask a lot of questions.
I mess with him way too much for him to be scared by that. You want cups? Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fine. You're talking about plastic cups?
I was about to say making Dave his own group, that's pretty harsh.
Hey, Gamer. I don't hear any typing.
Centralizing.
Yeah.
Zoning in.
Think it, believe it,
I'm trying
make
to
it so.
still don't get how you're going to move between rooms.
Well, you have to think, what is linking these rooms together, right? If I move north in one room, how does it get me to the next one? Well, that room must have some mapping to the other room, right?
Maybe a map class or a movie class or something like that.
You don't necessarily have to do it in a map class. You could do it all in the room class, really.
So how do you do like, would it be a loop like if?
Well, think about it like this: you're somewhere in your game class somewhere. There's gonna be an array of rooms, right? You're gonna have a collection of rooms. So don't like conflate room to world. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just having trouble spatially. Because it's text based and I want
Focus on the one room.
I know, but like,
Don't even think about exits. Build yourself a box, a very pretty box. Put your character in that box, and then we'll figure out how to make more boxes and put them together.
so what do rooms have? They have titles.
Start with the title and the description.
And items and names.
Start with
I
monsters.
started with just the title on mine until I got it working. Just something to give me visual feedback. That way I'd know it was working.
So with the character creation, would it start with an alteration of the game file that you originally made that has like the enter name stuff, or?
I don't know. See what makes sense.
Okay.
So we need to make a room. That's
Remember,
what you're supposed to do.
logging in, prompting for login is not the same thing as character creation.
Alright, I pushed up the title thing. I tried to push the thing up. I'm not sure if that worked.
The title thing?
The title change to
Title to
rooms.
room on his thing.
Go back in the room.
No, apparently not.
Go back to hit commits on the left there.
Mm-mm.
So that changed mine.
So, did you commit and not push?
Yeah.
So you've committed, right? Do get stat.
Yeah, you
Do get status.
Is it not?
It says you got a change right there.
Yeah. Change the bills to room.
Okay, so now do get add.
Oh, so the login would
Dash
be the
capital.
same as character creation. So it would be like a character creation class.
It's because
You don't have to do that right now.
it's
You can put it in that same class, and then later on, if it makes sense to move it out, we can do that. It will make sense to move it somewhere.
But
But-
just put the creation in the character class.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good place to do that.
Now do your get add dash a. See the game file that was being edited is that one right there. So now do get status again.
But you're gonna need some logic in the game class too. Remember,
See
to
this?
either just enter the
that's an
name
additional file.
and create a kind of generic character with that name, or type new and enter all the detailed character information.
You've got like a recursive structure going on there.
That's what I have no idea how to do.
So let's.
I mean, his was if you go north, you were in another room. Is that what you were kind of saying?
You're still worried about moving.
I mean, I know I'm not
Yeah,
supposed
right.
to.
So, well, there's no changes. Let's see.
So, we have these things, you want us to go to the, whatever, the game,
I think you copied the folder and then modified the wrong
make
file.
make a room?
Mm-hmm. That's a good place to start.
It is because that's the name of the wrong folder.
Okay. Go back up. Do stuff.
Oh, sorry. No, it'll be
Just do command though.
in the session probably.
Yeah, it's a habit because I'm not used to working in Sublime. I use a different editor.
What do you use?
I use Vim.
Why is that?
I can move very, very quickly in
Yeah.
Vim.
It's in the game. Game is only the file.
Okay. And just use that directory.
Yeah.
And so, there you go.
Figure out where you're at.
And then you'll just do your add, your commit, and your push.
Did we say the room would be session would have like a current room or whatever, or game?
I was gonna leave that kind of up to their design expertise. See how he figures out how to link them. I know how I did it.
Well, I don't.
Well, I'll pull it up over
This
here.
one.
This is why I did it.
Okay.
So the game is loading all the stuff in from file and creates a world object and gives the session a reference to the world and the player.
We wanna call
But the
it
player
something.
gets an actual reference to the actual room.
Yeah.
So it can,
I think, yeah, that's kind of how I was thinking
Yeah.
about it.
And so in here, some commands you can send directly through the player, like command dot examine, player dot look, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The commands that were administrator only, I just dropped in here. This is actually where I did the movement code. Like I left it out so because I didn't want to do all of the
Mm-hmm.
permutations. combinations of them. So I said move if the direction is available, and inside of here, I take the direction and I ask the current room if I ask it for the room for the exit that I'm requesting, and I have common aliases mapped right here. And what I do is when I'm taking the direction, either grab the full version if it's an alias, or I use the direction, and then I grab the that guy out from my symbol. So because in the YAML file, that's just a key. That's a symbol. So they already
So you can
match up with the
reuse your,
names. So when if we wanted to have custom directions like up, down, in, out, they could just add it here, and we add it to that alias list, and it just work. Things like in and out, very customized one. They don't even have to do the common aliases. So.
I was gonna ask you
But
something.
yeah, and the room gets a reference to the world too. That way.
Go back to that case statement that had the move at the end.
Yeah. And I'm still not sure this is how it needs to be done. I still kind of think there needs to be like a
Okay, so it just falls through that.
an executor. Yeah, that's the else. That's the default case.
Yeah.
And instead of doing that whole command like building the alias map and stuff like that, because I've been using Ruby more, I remembered you can just give multiple cases for the same command. So like look, comma L will do the look.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, so all of these will do that view when you're looking at something. Examine ex view, just V.
Can you do like could you put like an array here of, you can't do that, right? Like,
Array. Well, that essentially is an array, but
yeah, but if we ended up adding a ton of them, there's a ton of synonyms for
you're saying
look, right?
can you have it assigned somewhere and then just put the block
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Okay.
How you call the,
Yeah, Ruby's freaking dynamic at a crazy level.
How do you call,
I'll make them write unit tests for this crap.
like to do the title
Okay.
from the hash when you're instantiating a new room?
Okay.
Would it be room.new, would it be space colon title?
Depends on which format you want to write it in. If you're going to use the hash rocket approach, then yes, it would be colon title. If you're going to use the other one, the shorthand, then it's title colon.
can I see your, code again? That you know,
Oh, you mean the code that David wrote?
yeah, that right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
It's telling me that it's expecting an end.
Then you probably
Yep.
forgot an end.
You're probably missing an end.
That's a good answer.
So when you say prompt, I mean, to do a logic statement to see if they typed in new or they typed in a character, so they would, if they typed in a character name that they already had, it would load up a character that was already in the.
That's the
End of your line over here.
that behavior we'll have later on. Right now, we're not gonna be loading anything, so don't worry about that. Right now,
Look, show me the error.
it's really just you get the one way you just set the name.
Oh, you forgot.
The other way when you type new, you set the name, you
Go
set
back to
the
your code.
gender, you set the race.
Yeah.
It's more like a wizard creator, I guess. That makes sense.
You have to separate each key.
So, wait, so if you type in,
So if you type in the word new,
Require.
basically what,
Yeah. So add that require to the game file at the very top. You see how we're doing all the requires there? That's the easiest way to handle that.
Still, alright. Why are you
capitalized?
no such file cannot load?
That was from.
It's got to be ./src/the name if you remember to put your file in that location.
which probably is.
Cannot load such file,
Okay.
source player.
you've got the name from user input. Now, if name is equal to new, we're gonna do
Double hockey sticks.
the more complicated login script, right, the character creation. Otherwise, we're just gonna create, a character that just has the name set.
The most productive
Yeah,
will probably be
that's all
is
it'll have.
doing
Yeah,
something that we
whenever
call
we
pair
do
programming. It's
Okay.
when 2 or 3 of us
And
get
it won't
together
have-
and
And the
everybody
have
sits at
one
one
computer,
computer
whatever.
and you all work on coding
Okay.
together so that you're actively discussing what you're coding as you're
So,
doing it.
I mean, why
That's
would,
probably gonna be the best way to interact with this. That way you all don't have
Why would
to
that
do
be an
different code
option, though?
bases and try to decide.
Well,
which
later
one.
on.
it'll be, so later on it'll be.
And y'all can
like
swap
thing.
out.
Yeah, later on,
Like
when
someone
you
writes a
type
little bit, someone else writes a little bit.
It'll look through the
you know,
file,
and-
say, look up this name, if it's not there,
Can you tell me
then
what
you
this
can
error
do
means?
the
Yeah.
character creation wizard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
But
I
yeah,
know what
again,
it means.
we're not worried about the loading right now.
And that would be like this right here, a load character message.
See,
Mm-hmm.
required
So
cannot
I would
load
just say
such
self-load
file.
character.
Yeah, it means it can't load file.
I kind of thought that's what it would be.
I'm guessing you
But
guessed that.
I was worried
And
about
I
that.
assumed that,
You did.
but I don't like to assume.
And else it would be.
Well, you did well
like,
assuming that.
It would be referring to the character class, whatever. And it would be just.
Did you just write that or that file?
So let's see your character class real quick.
That was some. It was copied from the player one that he wrote.
Okay, yeah.
Be careful that one's
So,
broken.
okay, that's good enough for right now.
And I would store that like maybe like. But
You really didn't like that, did you? I wonder if-
and then the character.
Right now,
You're
go
gonna
back to
kick
yours real
yourself.
quick, I think your
You're
name
in the wrong
was
direction.
required, yeah, so you'll have to have
You're
that
trying to
name.
run the wrong file.
Oh, I would have to. So I would have to put that right there.
Cause we run this one, this
Uh,
game.
The
You
one
already
outside
got
of the
storage
source
variable.
folder.
See,
Okay.
that's why you should never name them.
That's correct. And as soon as y'all come up with a game name,
Oh, but that
We will
would
change it.
wait. It would, I got that
Come on, man.
mixed up.
Is there a control
No,
Z
your logic
to
is right.
terminal
Okay.
commands?
But you've already got the user input,
to
right?
undo terminal
To
command.
undo where I just went?
The name they entered is not new.
Just do
So
CD
you don't
dot
get it, right?
CD
Okay, so
space
that's
dot
not
dot.
that
CD.
No, you're still good.
Oh, you,
I'm
okay,
just
so
saying, the
that
only,
took you
only
back
time
to
we're
the
gonna
home folder.
get to this
Yeah.
code
Sounds
is when they
fun.
enter something other than new. Right?
That says equal to new.
Yeah, so if name equals new, you gotta run this code, else you're gonna run this code.
Are you done with this up here, Christie?
I am.
Okay.
That doesn't do anything.
So,
One of y'all wanna drive?
your, create a character.
Yeah,
name,
either
string.
either one of y'all needs to, and the other two need to look on with that person, or y'all need to look on with them.
So it would be me.
And so that next line there, you go.
So we need a thing to look at the room. Yeah.
But now in the load character, you're gonna have to grab some more, information.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
So you'll prompt user for 3 different things there, and, then set those on the character.
So if they typed in new, that would load the character, a character that was already in the.
Eventually, that's what we wanted to do, yeah.
Okay.
Cause then we need.
And it, you know, if I,
Right,
like, say they
okay.
typed in, Nick, and
Command
look at
that
the
would
file,
look at
and Nick
the
wasn't
room.
there. Well, then it could just say, would you like to create a new character?
Like, so we're able to.
Couldn't find this
see
character,
what's-
just
Yeah,
default.
see
to
See
create
what's
a
in,
new.
what's in the.
So it'd be the same behavior that we see here, just.
So you can do the user
So you like, you type in a name, if it doesn't find it, it would just prompt you that.
Then you
It
go.
would prompt you to create a character,
Okay.
a new character.
Would we use the same like blueprint like we did there, do you think?
Maybe. Why not?
Or is that?
So
What is
just-
token again?
Kind of stub this out, right? You know, what is this method gonna do?
It's gonna load when the
That's
characters
on
are on.
the, that's on the,
That
look at room.
We're really
Very
creative.
descriptive.
How do we make it do that?
Well, something has to call that method, right?
Yeah, but I haven't
So now I
tried this
just
method.
go, if they
Well,
type in a name,
how
it'll
does
go
it do that?
here.
If you're trying to print out the description,
Yeah, if they type in a name, you would get,
So, it would be
your
puts
character, you do up a character,
room.
and if the name,
Are you inside the class?
is variable, would
No.
be set to whatever.
where are you? I don't see you.
I'm in the session.
Oh, okay. So do you have a room?
I do in somewhere else, this, or,
Okay.
and then open it.
Spaceship.
And then
The
open it.
spaceship.
Don't
It's
fire
a
that.
Firefly joke.
No, I think I
And
need
then
to,
I'm gonna go.
because it's a function, so I'll have to
Spaceship.
put something out here.
If you wanted to just see it printed out to the screen, yeah, spaceship dot.
Look at room.
Look up.
But I haven't finished that method. What
We
the
don't
hell
have
did I
it.
just
Go on.
do?
You went to the next line,
No.
and it
thought,
continued to
outside
autocorrect you into
directory.
oblivion.
Go back to your,
It sure did. Alright, so what
I didn't do a source file though, I just had to,
would it be,
Is
you
that the
pulled
problem?
this down in the repo though, right?
no,
Oh, where'd you get it from?
I just typed it. I typed it when he was making it in last class.
No,
So
this
that's
is-
a problem.
Well, yeah, we don't need to be working outside of the repo.
do I need to add a room?
So, keep what you have here, let's, we just,
Oh,
Here.
that's interesting.
But it doesn't.
Sarcasm is sarcasm.
So start asking yourself some questions, okay? Let's start with this. What's the job of the session?
To play, like, run the game. I mean, it doesn't run the game, but it.
Don't look at your code for a second. Put it down. Yeah.
we're gonna
Put
close
it down. Yeah, put the code down. Yeah, okay. So
Visualize.
think about this for a second. All right. We have a player.
Yeah.
Okay. For a character, whatever we want to be called, right? We have a session.
Okay.
The session
Alright, so
is basically
here's the
what
game
is
on the
connecting the player
calls.
to the game, right?
So we run
And its job
game.
is to wait for the user's input, take that out, and then basically disseminate information where it needs to go.
So we can call it the source file and
At least for right now, that's what its job is. When we get
Yeah,
done with
let's
this,
stick with
we
this
might
one.
not even have a
So
section
there's-
class. But for now, it's kind of our driver,
There's
it's what
games
holds
that
our
aren't
attention to the
in
game.
here.
Now, we
And, all it
could
does
add
is
the
call-
room to the session.
It creates a new game,
Okay.
it calls boot up.
But
Okay,
that doesn't really make
it's
any
not.
sense to
Game it creates
to
is this game.
really think about it,
okay.
okay?
So,
A
later
class
on, we're gonna rename this
should
class
have
to
one job.
be something
Alright,
like the name
what's
of
a
our
room's
actual
job?
game,
Okay.
whatever we call it.
Okay.
Be
And that's
a
just,
room.
in there in
What's the
repo
player's
for,
job?
cause everyone's gonna be
To act
uploading,
as the player.
to the
The
repo.
session's
or
job.
something like
Yeah,
that.
we're all
is
gonna be
to
working
Take users
together
input.
in this repo.
So-
You know, the code that you push up, everyone else will have access to.
So I'll be adding to that the
Different
character
job.
class.
We shouldn't give it a relationship to something
So
that it
we
doesn't
need
need
to-
to do its job.
Yeah.
We need to get your character class
Now,
in this,
The session doesn't interact with the room like that,
in this folder.
okay? Does a player?
We don't interact with it.
Well, they do interact.
What
with
files
it.
did you
Yeah.
change? Game,
So,
and
a
character.
player's
Change
always
anything
going to be in the room, right?
I mean, character is just so
So
far
why
as a
not
copy of
give
player.
else? Okay.
I was just
Player.
gonna create a new file to add
A
more,
current room.
or if then what player had it, so.
Yeah, I just don't wanna lose
Then,
anything.
if he moves from another room,
So,
moves to
let's
another room, you can just
add
change that reference to a different room. Then all you have to say when the command for look comes in is player dot current room dot current room description or whatever.
Okay.
So,
And anytime the player needs to interact with the room, whether it be for quest stuff, whether it be looking around, whether it be moving around, they have a reference to the room that they can use to interact with.
So,
Now, that's just one way to do it.
How'd you do that?
The other way to
Yeah.
do it
what's it?
is we could would say the room
Okay.
Sure.
has a
Alright.
player.
But to load this folder, you go to project, add folder to project,
Okay.
or you can drag folder from Finder over here.
I don't know if you
Alright, so-
No,
think about that.
Oh, this is wrong.
In real life, that kind of makes more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because a player is in a room. But I will tell you from experience, that's going to be much harder to program.
Let's do the other one.
The reason why is because think about how you're going to move a player from room to room.
So, under source here.
How does the player ever know what room he's in if he doesn't have a reference to it? Right?
So you would initialize room with a player?
No. No.
No.
For the current room thing you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You've already created the room.
Yeah.
When you have a player there, do you have a player initialized?
Yes.
You could have a property on a player called current room or location or just room or whatever you want to call it.
But not
Okay.
exactly the same.
Position maybe, I don't know. But you need to set that equal to that room that you want him to be in. Okay? If you want him to be in spaceship, you need to set that current room equal to spaceship.
In the player class or in
So
the
we should
game?
be
Well,
working
inside the
from a
class,
state here.
that
So
was,
let's
that you
run
wouldn't do
this
that,
backwards.
because if you did it inside the class one doesn't have visibility on spaceship.
Alright.
And two, that would set the player to always have the current room of spaceship.
Oh yeah, because there's nothing.
And you don't want that.
So.
You want this particular instance of the player to have this particular current room.
Well, you're also.
So inside the game
I
class
realize
there,
this is in private.
you would want to be able to
Self-
say
Right.
player dot maybe.
Oh, okay.
And this would all be in boot up,
I don't know.
in the boot up method?
Mhm.
So I need to define another method.
No, you don't have to, just put it inside of boot up for now.
Because it makes me realize
Player.
that was an error.
So
That was why I
imagine
was
what
making
you
an
call
error
this
on a
method.
later
You don't have to
project.
do
Just
it.
when we
Or
were
if
starting.
it-
Yeah.
you could start by saying,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. And then fill in what's missing. So,
Okay, now it's, I think it's check errors.
so, yeah.
So, player. Look at room.
No, not look at room. We're not trying to get him to look at room, we're trying to tell him, this is your room, this is the room you're in, right?
That'll just return a
So,
value, right?
Wait, what?
This variable here is called
So you would,
sessions, and
yeah.
below it you're calling like sessions.
Oh, right.
So just take that S off.
But like, if I just do player current
No.
room and less in the method
Oh.
current room.
I can't see what you're
Sorry.
typing. So it's okay.
The recode.
So, if I'm trying to, if current room is a property on player,
Yeah, so we want it to be.
Okay.
let's give it a setter.
Okay.
Under player?
Yeah. So,
Press
let's
up.
make a method called maybe set current room or
Saves.
maybe move to room. Something like that, I don't know. So what do we want to happen when we move a person to a room?
Identify what room they're in, let know what room.
Right, we kinda wanna show them, right?
Well, that's because it's
So,
actually.
for that, we're taking in a new room here, right? So we need a parameter there,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be the new room.
And it's called.
Oh, but you've got, we got character and we got player.
Yeah. I was.
Now, this is a property, right?
But
Can player be
this
a-
is
So
about
the very
character
first thing we
defining
should do
that,
right away is we
So,
should save it
do we already have
for
a
the
player
player.
class?
Correct.
You already
We should
have
save
a
a
character,
reference
we
to
can do
room,
that.
so.
I wanted to do that.
Okay.
And just.
Well, let's do that, so.
Well, that's not
Go ahead
gonna
and
work, right?
require,
Because
just
new
change the
room is a
player
variable
to,
there.
Character.
And it's not always gonna be a new room, so I wouldn't name it new room.
Right.
something like
Press,
position or current room or something like that.
That.
Okay. Equals new. Okay. What's missing from that?
And we get rid of this.
yeah, like rename that employee to a character and
Have current
call
room, that's right.
character dot
You
name
find that
instead.
somewhere.
Like that.
You don't have to. Remember, the properties in Ruby objects, they'll come
That's already
alive
in
as
there,
soon as you
so,
assign them.
or does that need, does that need to do that?
Well,
So,
we probably shouldn't call it new character.
current
We
room
just call it
equals
character
new
for
room.
now.
And then we probably wanna go ahead
And it goes
and
down here.
show the room, right? So,
Actually, we don't need that line.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Would you do that there, or would you?
let's
So,
start by doing
our
it
session
inside that
class.
method. Okay.
Let's take a look at it real quick. Go, click on session.
You can turn it towards you to type, that's fine.
Our session has,
Description?
Well, what's the name of
Right.
really,
the what do you have inside your room class?
we rename that to character, so let's, follow through with that.
Okay, those are internal properties, right? And nothing outside of that class has visibility on it. And we want to show both maybe the title and the description. So why don't, let's make a
Yeah,
special
it's
method that will return both formatted the way we want.
Inside a room or else?
Inside room.
Would all this go in else?
That way we only have to write it once, right? For every room, it'll format it and return to the same.
Right.
So let's,
And now we just carry.
let's say full description. That's a good name for it. Kinda like how we did full
Alright, so,
name with the contact, right?
By the end of this, we should have our character, right? So, let's not,
Now,
if we did this,
let's,
what would it print out if we typed new?
well, you
Or
don't
you just
want,
wanna return.
you just want to
Or
return.
it would print out,
right?
would it print out like the spot in the memory with like a?
No, it would print out welcome new.
Good.
That's not what we want though.
Right.
What we actually wanna do is print
Okay.
out the name of the character.
Okay.
So how do you do that?
Would that be here?
And
No.
let's put it on a separate line. Let's, put the description on a separate line. We can't do that, right?
Do we have a character object?
Because that's gonna return whatever's in the second
No.
string, not that one. So what you're gonna have to do is put a new line character right there after the title.
We created a new one, right?
Yeah.
Right here. We created a new one.
Yeah. Inside,
Stab in the dark.
inside.
What we're
of
gonna do down here is create one as well. But
Other slash.
either way, by the time we get to
Yep.
this line,
The
we
one
should have
nobody
a
ever
character
uses.
object.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
what can we
Space.
do to
And,
say welcome,
Then your string information.
whatever we set for the name of the character?
Perfect. And
But
then
this
close
would
the
be
string.
replaced with, character.
Great.
Oh,
That'll do it. That'll do the trick.
I don't know how to do that.
And you don't need the spaces there, but it doesn't matter. They're not gonna show up anyway, right?
So then we would do dot,
But that's gonna,
Full
see, now
description.
that's gonna
Right.
print out the
That's
pointer.
a method.
We want to actually,
Correct.
what do we want?
The actual name that's in the
that
character.
is not,
Very
So,
important.
that is
go
not
back to your
a-
character over here. So we got a attribute reader.
It's not an
So we can just use dot notation, say character dot name.
Attributes, properties, they're interchangeable.
Oh, okay. That's what that does. I've used that a lot, forgot about it.
Otherwise, we have to
okay,
create
so
reader.
where am I telling you that new
They call
room is?
my character dot
room?
name.
So where do
Okay, so that's
we
not-
call move to room?
It's character within.
Where do we call that?
Yeah.
Is it in here?
Okay. That's perfect. So you have your player, you have your room. So player dot move to room. And you're telling the player now move to spaceship.
There we go.
Move to room
Okay.
spaceship.
Alright, so
Yeah.
let's go back.
Is that one word or two?
Go back to your, over here.
What, spaceship?
Now,
I don't know, I've seen it done
do
both
you see
ways.
anything wrong with,
Doesn't really matter, I guess. It's just a very
It's
line.
down casing,
yeah.
so is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we need to call
Save
down
it
case,
and let's see
right?
what runs.
But we're calling it the wrong place. Where else can we call it?
It's like quit first.
Well, we need to call it down case to,
That, Gemini?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like I gotta leave early.
it has something to do with
Sorry
this.
about that.
Okay,
or-
no, it's
No,
fine.
it's
So we
So we need, we're
don't-
comparing to this locate string, right?
Okay.
So it looks like we're missing an end here.
So we have to downcase the
section.
input at some point to compare it to locate string, because what if they enter new and all caps?
That's it.
So, but what we're doing is actually mutating the name that they,
It's much better way to look at it.
entered. So when we try to use it later.
Will we put a capitalized in there?
I don't know. I was
That's-
about to ask.
But what we do, the
Check it out. It automatically creates
downcase
it.
here.
So now the next thing we want to do is they want to be able to look at it again and again and again. All right.
So it'd be here instead of.
Type look.
Okay.
You have the command
So see the
program.
difference?
No.
Okay.
I do.
So now name, if
So
they
so
capitalize it,
yeah,
it's
so
still
let's
gonna
go
be
back to
capitalized.
Okay.
So
session,
when
right?
we create this character and pass it that name, actually just save it and run it, you'll see the difference.
Okay. As a trick, they call functions on things I wouldn't think to call functions on, or objects, because everything's an object.
Well, we don't have to do that.
So let's go run
Yeah.
it again.
Don't get
Type
ahead of
the
yourself.
same.
Call just call it making and calling methods for each case. That's only something we did
Yeah.
in the
Control C or.
accounting example, stuff like that, because it made sense to do there. We don't necessarily have to do that here, though, do we?
Mhm.
But the first thing we do need to do is we need to add the command there.
Mhm.
So,
Alright, so
Cool.
we just have
Just a bunch of
so we
this.
just
so no,
change the input.
after stop, do it in
Alright, so we're getting somewhere, right?
and type when,
Now, if they type new,
okay?
what's gonna
And
happen?
make another string just like quit is there.
That'll,
Yeah.
it goes to this, but there's nothing here.
Right.
And we'll type look.
And then
Alright.
this is prompt
So-
for a new character, so. And that would,
Before you write
that would
anything,
just redirect back to the character class.
what's looking?
Or that would go to the, that would be loading.
The character class is not gonna be responsible for.
No, no, what does it do?
User,
What is looking?
doing anything like that. The character class
No,
just.
that's
right now,
not,
it really
what is
just
the
needs
act of
to-
looking?
to
Ooh,
know
what is
that it's
looking?
named
What is
player.
looking?
Player.
Player is.
Okay, I was like, that's
So-
that's a,
so-
that's a
that's
question
a
right there.
question.
That's a
Question.
son of a bitch.
Our game class
So
or.
it should
we
probably
might
have the
go this out later,
responsibility of
get to
looking
something
at it.
else, But we wanna keep it
So,
out of the character class.
why don't we
So we'll just do it here, we'll just prompt
add
the
player
user here
dot look?
for that input and create a new character with that input.
Now it doesn't matter what room he's in, right? If we just call at player dot look, let's go make a method
So-
called look on player.
But could you repeat that?
Okay, so up here we created a character with the name they typed in, right?
Okay.
Down here, we're gonna create a character,
Okay.
well, we're gonna prompt them
What
for
code needs to go
the
in?
character's name, race, and gender.
Okay.
And then we're gonna create a character with those,
Copy it and paste it.
So
values.
that would, it would be, this would contain like,
Okay.
the character or the session with all the functions that prompt for gender and character description, and then character would
Now something beautiful.
contain all that
will
stuff.
happen, Because we've got
Well,
some.
yeah, so we don't
notation.
have,
Go back
we
to
can
your
do that
phone
right now, we can put race and gender on here.
Would it be on
Take
here, or would it be
that one
separate
out.
functions?
And just call
Or
look
just
there.
F, get, gender,
Even though it's under it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a class separation. It's not executing in order, right?
F,
If we wanna do that, we'd have to do get and set.
Now, if we ever change how descriptions
Oh,
are
that would-
written out, the
that
row
would,
look
that
the
would,
same.
those would be
That
contributor
would-
readers then,
Yeah, that'd be the
Right.
easiest way to do it.
That's cool.
okay.
What's the other one, Jeremiah? Attribute reader and
ATTR underscore reader and ATTR underscore accessor.
accessor creates getter.
ACC, yeah, the like ACC and stuff like that, and there's a getter and a setter.
Okay, so let's do that for now, I guess. Instead of writing lots of methods. So under this,
Not
right,
bad,
so just
huh?
change ATTR reader to ATTR accessor.
So, because the player is the one that's moving,
And then,
So now we can
they
just
would
set
have
these
a
and read
method
them.
for move.
Well, as you saw
And
me,
this-
I
this
didn't
need this.
make a command move. I
Well,
just
you could still have that.
typed the
It's,
direction I wanted to go in. And something I didn't
It's
show you is
required right
that
now. The
if
name is
I
required.
type in a direction
When we
that
do
didn't exist,
a
it
character,
would say, you
it
can't do
requires
that.
that. Now, we could make it optional. Or we could
That's,
do nothing. You know, we could,
so,
just not advise it at all. If we made it optional,
I'm trying to think what else we need in my
Get the
room.
default.
Something that
okay, but then so gender and description would go in there too.
says
But that would, if,
you type
Right now, gender and
You go
description is
north.
strings.
Like
Okay.
you
It's
said,
a string,
you
so
go
it's
north
okay
2
for
times and then
No,
Yeah, because
the size.
by
I
default,
guess,
those
I
be
don't
no,
know.
right?
okay.
How would
Yeah.
You
you-
could have a room size.
They need to be-
I wouldn't add it until we figure out what it's
They
for.
would still need to have,
Maybe a character has a
Metrics,
height or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah,
and a
because
room
this is
can
gonna
be too
create,
small for them to enter or
Users and
something.
setters for those attributes.
That'd be interesting.
okay.
Yeah, that's a mouse.
So we can go back to our game class.
Yeah.
That's just a whole new genre.
Alright,
That's a
so-
whole new thing.
All we need to
Like,
do right
how
now
do you
is
get-
prompt the user
Ow.
for a name,
How do you what?
Get out of
gender, and a description
Well,
or whatever.
we need additional rooms,
We made,
and then we need a way to connect them,
name, gender,
right?
description. So prompt the user
So,
for those three.
we shouldn't
values.
define entrances and exits, probably,
And I guess I can
Because
go
they're
back and
really
make
the
this
same
more
thing.
interesting.
right?
Yeah, I mean,
If you
the
come
goal now
from,
is just get something
if you
working.
come from one direction,
We'll refine it later.
it was your entrance, if you leave back out of it, it's your exit.
It sounds like some ancient Chinese proverb or something.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's
It's a fortune cookie writer.
yeah.
But now it's stored in a variable.
You see what I mean though?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, I can think of something else your room needs, and you can go ahead and add,
Character name.
and that would be
Would
a
that be-
unique identifier.
Well, we could do this a couple ways. So you could say,
And you do that here,
Where?
in the room class?
Well, it's part of your room, right?
Mm-hmm.
let's see.
Then yeah, I'd
So we
think
could,
it's a
what
property,
we probably
it's
ought
an
to do
attribute.
is,
It's just a unique attribute. It's something that's specific to that guy. Okay? So each room would have a different something. I used IDs.
we want this scoped outside. this
Remember
anyway,
when
so,
I did
um,
that summon command to create that NPC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I said
we can
summon
say,
one.
Mm-hmm.
The one
Yes.
was the unique identifier of that wolf NPC that I made.
not chomp.
I could call it over and over and
Sorry.
over and make lots of wolves there, but it didn't. So,
You need that assigned though, right? You don't need that,
Character.name.
or would you assign that?
that'd be something you would hard code.
Okay.
So, that's something you wouldn't put inside the class. You would probably put that inside your
Alright, so
file or wherever you
if we
were
run
reading it
that,
from.
we
So when
should see
you
the
provide the
same-
title and the description and whatnot,
The same
you're gonna
functionality.
provide some unique identifier, something that can tell rooms apart from one another.
When we type new,
I just used an integer.
gonna ask for our character name,
So
we'll type Gary, should say,
So like,
His name is on the front. First mic.
Would you code it the same way you coded like title equals options, bracket title?
let's try that again.
so see this YAML file up here that I showed you?
Uh-huh.
See, I have an ID.
Mm-hmm.
So just like all these other properties, I read in an
New
ID and I assigned that property on the room.
How did you,
It's spelled the same.
That's good though, that's progress. I mean, your character is in a room now.
did you call like this? ID equals options ID,
That's perfect, yeah.
and then you would put it, like you wouldn't do anything. Just
Yeah, you're done with it
hash
for
around.
now. Yeah, you're done with it for now.
Feel good about that?
You know what I would do if I were you? Since you've got stuff in a working state, and you've added rooms successfully now,
Push that.
I would commit it and push it. That way you don't accidentally mess it up.
Oh,
Alright,
How's it going, y'all?
it's going.
Okay, so if you make a space and then save it.
Is that what we're calling
like,
a name on this, but we
like,
haven't
let's say I
actually
go to
hooked
this
it up yet, so it doesn't know what
And like-
class it is.
Put a bunch of,
I can
So
see
we'll
that.
say I go here and I just put a bunch of
Okay.
spaces.
Okay.
And
I see.
we'll pass in.
Yeah.
Is that one gonna be technically different than the
For
one that's
now.
already up there?
Yeah, it depends on what your
Just
text
empty
editor
strings.
does. Sometimes text editors, if they detect
it is
just a
required
line of
stuff.
empty space, they'll delete all
And
the
here we'll
spaces
say
for you, but this one I don't think does. I think it's
character.
a setting somewhere, and I think it's called trim and white space, but, yeah, that technically is a change to a file.
That's why I'm
So that should-
sometimes afraid to commit to like
Don't-
repositories.
Don't be afraid to. Okay, the more often you commit working code, I think of it kind of like your save point. I mean, when you get something working, you know, like when you just beat a boss in a game, you're like, oh god, I don't want to have to do this again. You save. You know, before you start developing anything really tricky, you save. You know, after you finish a feature, you save. That's doing a commit.
How do I force it?
Oh no. No. What did it tell you?
Get full? Is that what I have to do?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Merge conflict. So it was in room.
Stupid. This is me.
Yeah, that's your old stuff.
Like that right there.
Did you not
Or is that-
have?
It's
Did you?
on 19.
You pushed that up, didn't you?
Oh.
Did you make a new copy of the repository?
Yeah,
I
it's at
thought
some
Tim
point.
pushed something up too, but.
Oh, he did. He put title there, didn't he? Look at that.
So this is a cool room.
Yeah. Well, you've got it already up here, and you changed the way that was working,
That's
so
the one.
don't forget your other side up there too.
Okay. You
Yep.
see any more?
And now run your code to make sure everything still works.
Yeah, that means I have to change folders.
There we go.
Okay.
Got it going.
See, game.
Why do you have to change folders? You should already be in the folder. Go, do all
And
this.
so like, so when you
Yeah, right,
enter
folder.
it, you know, through there, and it just puts what you
Yeah,
entered
but I
right there.
just did CD game.
Yeah, so we're setting
It-
there's
it's
two
everything
game
to
folders.
It didn't work. No, there's only one
whatever
game
user
folder.
is.
Okay.
Oh God, you're the one who created
Why would
the
it,
duplicate
why would it
folder.
do that?
No, that wasn't me.
Well, do what? I mean, we could do.
Because there was only a
say-
source folder in there.
Ruby
say-
game.rb.
Maybe he did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Let me look at it for a second, because I hope your code's not all in the game folder, because if it is, it's about to be lost.
Character
Oh,
name equals. Same
that
thing.
hard to do
Those
with
are
your
equivalent. It's just you put it in one.
But you got
Okay.
game inside
Now later on, you may
game.
want to do some validation.
I'm pretty sure I pulled this down from the
Okay,
repository.
okay, hold on. This is a difference, oh no. Okay, you're just confused about where you are, that's all.
Name.
You have a game folder
Yeah.
that you
We'd
made,
have to create a method.
then you
called
clone the
validate.
repo inside of that.
Okay.
The repo folder is also called game.
So it is my fault.
Okay. I'll see if I can finish.
I'm
it.
going to change your folder name, the big one,
Mm-hmm.
to
And then when I'm finished with it, I just
class
commit it
underscore game.
like I would normally do.
Yeah,
Or
you're gonna,
game assignment.
you have to add on files, commit.
That way you won't
You're
get
definitely gonna have
confused.
merge conflicts. So,
And
if
then-
you wanna walk through that now, we can do it. So you can see how to handle it.
Okay.
Let me get mine up there before you start pushing and pulling.
So-
Oh, jeez.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Was there anything valuable in this second recording?